Hi guys, welcome back to episode 3 of Loving Me, Loving You. And today's guest is an extra special guest by the name of Harmony Nice, a YouTube content creator, a witchy woman, a spiritual woman, and just like a wholesome lady who just like gives out so much like just genuine sound and healing advice. And she's a YouTube content creator with over 739,000 subscribers on YouTube and over 385,000 Instagram followers. And she just now more so than ever just focuses on like spirituality and just like vast and broad topics to heal you as an individual, connect with people, and share her stories and her experiences on a raw and open scale. And she has a series on YouTube called Enchanted Endeavors and Enchanted Spellworks, just to do with Wicca and witchcraft and all that magical good stuff. And it's my pleasure to introduce to you Harmony Nice, this girl I've been following for ages, and I can now say friend. Hi, Harmony.
Hello. Hello. I'm on. Hello. It is a massive pleasure to be here, as obviously we have just been speaking about. But yeah, I'm very excited to be chatting to you today after like so long of talking online and kind of, back and forth online and seeing, your lovely support that you've given me over the last few years at least. so yeah, thank you so much for talking to me and being interested in talking to me and everything like that. I really do love doing these things as well because they just feel so genuine. So yeah, thank you so much for having me.
Absolute pleasure. Just right off the bat, I know I already talked to you about this, but how are you like currently?
Yeah. I'm really good. Yeah, I feel like life's obviously a bit weird with everything going on. Like I feel like everybody is just like in a weird place at the minute. But like as for like my soul and everything and my like mental health, like I feel pretty great. Like I'm doing a lot better than I used to, and I've been like consistently pretty good recently, which is always, nice and everything. And yeah, how are you doing?
Thank you for asking. I'm doing really, really well. I was an early bird today, dolled myself up a little, like my little spiritual routine, and yeah, I just did my normal 9 to 5, and now I'm here, rejuvenated and talking to you.
Yeah, lovely.
I'm just gonna start off by saying, going back in time, um, what was young little Ginger Harmony like?
Um, how far back are we going? Are we going
As
like,
much as far as you can remember, basically.
yeah? Well, like, okay, childhood.
Yeah, yeah.
Childhood, very like, I think I had like a pretty great childhood. I've always lived like middle of nowhere, countryside, which I think is like sparked my interest in nature and stuff like that. Like, I feel like around where I live, in Norfolk, is like there's so much like abundant nature here, and I feel very lucky to have grown up around that and like always have had that at my doorstep. You know what I mean? And yeah, like when I was young, I was super happy child, and then as a teenager, like all the hormones come rushing in. This identity, like things come up like rushing in, and you're kind of like working out who you are. And I think for a long time I didn't know who I was for a very long time, like maybe up until like last year. Like honestly, like I really don't think I even like realized who I was up until then. And yeah, so I mean, I've always been somebody that like has been obsessed with nature, which led me to witchcraft. Like that is the genuine like connection, is I just feel I say it like every day that I feel more at home outside than I do like inside. Like I could literally like go and sit under a tree all day in the
I
cold.
mean, the
Be like,
fact that you messaged me earlier and you were like, "I'm going for a hike," I was like, "Yeah, that's harmony."
I was just like, I always try to get out for walks, and actually where I live now is really like I'm basically like in a flat but in the middle of nowhere. Like you have to like wear wellies to get into town. Like yeah, like yeah. So it's very like I like a like nice abundant countryside and stuff like that, and I wouldn't have it any other way. Like I moved into the city like temporarily for like a few years, and it's just not for me. Like I like the city, but I feel so much more at home, being here and being able to like go and swim in a lake if I want to, or like, sit outside with a book.
Your family home, was that like in a secluded kind of area? Because I remember you like talking about it was like kind of in the middle of nowhere and you had to take buses.
Yeah, that was so the town. So I don't know if you've ever been to Norfolk. I actually don't know where you're from, so I probably should ask that. Like,
I'm from Birmingham, as
oh,
basic as that gets.
Birmingham, yeah. And I, yeah, I so that it like in Norfolk, all of the towns basically, as soon as you leave the towns, is like countryside. So there's like little gatherings of towns, but in between all the towns is like loads and loads of fields and stuff like that, because it's like one of the main places that farming gets done in the UK. So it's basically all like farmlands and woods and stuff like that. So it's very nice, but I've lived in towns, so like all of them have been like small towns, like if not bordering on like villages. Do you know what I mean? So my family home was like somewhere else that I actually don't. It's not far away from where I am now, but it was like on the edge of a town. So it was kind of like on the edge of a town, like, and then there was fields like literally right next to my house. And it was very lucky. Like my family inherited that house from my nan, which I feel like is very, very, very lucky to have had that experience, like growing up in that home, because it's like an old farmhouse and it was really beautiful and kind of, yeah, just it was really, really lovely to get to spend my childhood there. And I'd lived there my whole life. So that's like been the only house that I'd ever lived in, and then I obviously like did a few move arounds, like, later on, and when you move out and stuff like that, I moved to Norwich, and now I live like 10 minutes away from where I grew up, but it's in a different town, and yeah, it's really nice. But yeah, that was like on the border of the town in like the middle of nowhere, or almost. I think it was in the middle of nowhere for a long time, and then they built a few houses around it, and then it was like, but yeah.
Oh yeah, it's actually like good insight of like getting to understand, not that it defines someone, but getting to understand people's like growing up situations. Like mine was like quite the opposite, but like kind of messy, but like I guess it just goes to show it can make or break you in that kind of sense.
Yeah.
However, in terms of like your childhood self,
Mm.
would you say that you were just pretty much happy up until like secondary school?
Yeah,
Like truly you?
Yeah, well, I don't. You know what? I don't know. It's kind of complicated, because I feel like I was subconsciously getting like getting I don't know, like kind of like I don't know how to explain it. Like subconscious pressure was like getting to me at that age, but I don't think I really noticed it. Like, because I was kind of doing my own thing and all of that. But I think like a lot of people look back and they look at their childhoods, and even though I have like an amazing family, like from other people and from society and stuff like that, you kind of notice the like external pressures that just get put on you from a young age. And weirdly enough, like I think I actually started dissociating at like the age of 9, but not properly and not like fully. Like I feel like I would have moments of like severe daydreaming that would then like border on dissociating when I was like really young. and then it got like a lot worse in my like late teens, because I feel like I've always had like patches of dissociation and like derealization and stuff, but it didn't get like full time until like my late teens. Yeah, full time dissociation, like a job. Like, but it didn't get like, you know, as intense until I was like 19, 20.
If you've heard of this thing called it's probably the wrong word, but like fantasia, or like something to do with it's like almost like trippy and like really really strong, like how you've been describing, because
Yeah,
I can only like kind of pinpoint at a certain point in my life, like when I was around like 10 or something like that, where I would really like have out of body experiences of like viewing myself in a bird's eye kind of like way of like, oh, this is not the life I want to be living, or like doing the things I want to do. So I can relate in that aspect, but
I kind of had feelings like that too, weirdly, but in like a different way, obviously.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's interesting. But I think I had that since like a young age, but didn't really realize it. I think I had a very like vivid imagination as well, and I always like grew up wanting. I also think like there was like a pressure to grow up and like be something special, maybe. I don't really know. I feel like I had that pressure in my head, like that I wanted to be like.
Where do you think that came from?
I don't know. You know, it could have been like subconscious of like maybe my mum wanting me to do like really well, but she didn't put pressure on me. So I also kind of doubt that. She never was like, she always just like, do what makes you happy and I'll be there for you, you know, and she has lived up to that. But also I do think it is just like, maybe I felt I was quite like a weird looking child. Like people always, you know, compliment me on my ginger hair and freckles, but that was like my downfall as a child, because I had like really like my hair like has lost a lot of its curls, but I used to literally have like hair like out here, and it would like and like stick up and kind of, you know, and I was very pale, very very skinny when I was younger, like really skinny, and like
at what age were you talking, like as in like childhood?
Like childhood, you know. And then I was kind of like that until I, you know, hit puberty or whatever, and and I think like I would notice that I was kind of different looking, and I think like I, you know, like people say things and stuff like that, and I wanted to try to like live up to people's expectations of me, or like almost be like, fuck you, like I'm gonna be better than that. But then that can become a very damaging way of thinking, because you're always trying to like one up people, or like you know, like try to almost be the best version of yourself, but not for yourself, like for other. Which
it's like that. Like I'm reading a book that's and I know how like strong you are about like ego and stuff like that. So I am reading a book like A New Earth by Eckhart Tolle. So like it's like there's this part where it's like you can say you're doing and removing like toxic habits or like whatever and this and that, but you're doing it for the wrong reasons. You're trying to like one up and that ego and just prove yourself as like this like enlightened, like just for that just that recognition.
And I think like ego is a strange one, because I do think like that I don't think that like ego ever disappears. Like I think there's always like a part of it, and you have to accept that part of it. Like a lot of like,
it can be beneficial as well.
You can use it for good, like everything. You can use anger for good, you can use like, you know, all these like and
it makes you human, like you can't have good without the bad.
No, you can't. And you can transform, it's just how you react to it, isn't it? You know, that's like the whole thing, is like it just depends how you choose to use these emotions, because you're human, you've got all these emotions. It's just like, how are you going to use them to like, you know, help yourself, or like
I'd rather feel a lot than feel very little.
Oh, definitely.
That's like
I'd rather than be like you know, like
I don't know if you've ever heard of like I don't know if it's like a medical diagnosis, but I really do strongly believe that I might be a hypersensitive person, which and I don't know.
Too.
Yeah. And it's good, because like having or showing signs of weaknesses, or showing emotion, etc., it's actually a lot of strength and courage behind that, to be very vulnerable.
Yeah.
So I do think that about you, where you're like very strong in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I feel that kind of too, in a sense that I have always been called sensitive. Like I've always been like, that's been like a trait that's been given to me, is like, oh, you're so sensitive. And it's like, maybe like before, you know, I didn't, in times I haven't reacted in great ways because I have been feeling that, you know, sensitive. But in another way, it also has been like something that has made me like a more caring person. Like I've always been very like aware of my, like, how, you know, if I, you know, I hurt somebody, it's like end of the world, you know. And I try to kind of balance that out a little bit, because like sometimes I'll like, I got into habits of like punishing myself for things, you know, and being like really self critical, because I would make mistakes and do these things, you know. But yeah, I've always been very sensitive. So if there is a diagnosis, then like,
just add one more to the list.
like,
In terms of your relationship, I know that you're very transparent with it on YouTube or wherever you've like documented your life. In terms of relationship at home, what was that like at the start?
do you mean like my family?
Family, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, I have like a very regular family. Like I say that is just kind of like, I have a very normal family, and I mean, there's been no problems other than the natural problems of things that people just didn't realize. Like, you know, obviously my parents didn't grow up with like knowledge about mental health or anything like that. So I think that I would have probably have gone to a therapist a lot earlier if my parents had that, you know. But then as soon as my mum kind of started to get educated in that, she's actually training to be a counsellor now. I think she like noticed that and then helped me like with it. But I think it took a long time to actually be like, for them to actually know what to do. Like that's kind of, I think that's the only like problem that is being passed down, is just like how, like when they were children, like things like that didn't exist, you know, like, and recognizing that maybe there's problems with your child maybe didn't exist. So like in that regards, like I've always had very loving parents. Like my parents have always been sure to like tell me they love me all the time, and, you know, make sure that I'm very like cared for. And we're quite like a close, tight knit family, like us five. And like we have like obviously extended family, but it's always kind of been us quite tightly.
How many siblings? Was it two others?
Two.
Two.
Yeah, I've got an older sister and a younger sister, so I'm like middle child. Like the middle child syndrome.
You know what instantly came to my head? Charmed. Like
everybody says that. Everyone's like, and it's so funny because if they were to meet my sisters, they would be like, okay, not Charmed. Like, because my older sister is like, she's very like she's a nurse, and she's very like practical. She's just like all about, you know, practical living. She's like, she loves the countryside and stuff as well, but yeah, she's very practical, and she kind of wears, you know, like Jack Wills and jewels, and, you know, like that kind of, she's just a very practical love, but like one of the loveliest people that I've ever met. But my little sister is a lot more like me. We're very, very similar, and we look like really alike. Like people, she's got blonde hair and I've got ginger hair, so every time we go out, people are like, or like people will sometimes mistake her for me, and they'll be like, oh, and they'll like look at her and be like, she really looks like somebody. Or like some of my friends have like just like smiled at her in the street and thought like, she really looks like somebody, and I don't know who it is, you know what I mean? And yeah, so we kind of, we do look quite alike, and we also just share like a lot of the same interests, and yeah, so we're more like alike than me and my older sister are, but we all get along like incredibly well, like past the, you know, rubbish like when you fight as like a child. Like we've never had any problems, so I've been really lucky on that front to be so close with my sisters.
I'm not going to say it's a rarity, but it's becoming more and more harder to find, to have like a solid family unit. Not that there's anything inherently wrong with not having a solid family unit, because I'm a firm believer of you can choose your own family and make your own family. But it's nice to hear that it does work.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, we obviously have our problems, like every family does, you know, but it's like I feel I am like lucky in that regards, especially with how close me and my sisters are. It's like been very like helpful hand to like have them as like almost my best friends in a sort of way, you know, and like because they're like the best connection to my life and they know me so well. It's kind of like a really nice bond to have. And but it's always good to recognize, you know, like any crap that happens and make sure you work through it and stuff still. And that's kind of like what we try to do. You know,
just about living and just being human at the end of the day.
In
terms of, I know when you talking about being ginger and skinny and just like not giving a fuck, what was the first definitive memory that you can remember of like just basically performing the role of like what people deemed as attractive? So just like, what was the first definitive moment of like losing yourself?
So my nan, who I was like very close to, like I'm not like, we're not, like I said, I'm not like overly close to my extended family, even though I really appreciate them and, you know, and have them. We're not like, we don't see them that often. We're not like, you know, like a big family or anything. My nan though was like really close to us. Like we really, she just like loved us so much, and she died when I was 13, and I think that was like my first experience of loss. And I was lucky that I kind of handled it in a way where I like my parents, you know, like my parents grieve healthily. They're very like, they will sit and they will cry and they will cry together, and it's very like, you know, it's kind of like I went through a very healthy mourning process of my nan. But it was around the time that I obviously like hit puberty and everything, so like all these emotions and shit, and I hated school, and I like hated, like, I'm still not into, like, I still get weird about authoritative figures and stuff like that. I'm not very good with like authoritative figures, but I honestly think it's like at that age, it was in a time where there was no like self-awareness. Like, it's when I was like, how old are you, by the way? Just,
I'm 21.
Yeah, I know. I was just thinking like whether you were like in the same sort of generation that I was.
How old are you?
Were like, I'm 24. No, 23. I'm not 24. I'm 24 in like a month. That's what I'm thinking.
Oh.
Yeah, but I've had that in my head. I've been getting myself ready for 24.
You know what? Like one of my friend keeps like introducing me as like still 20, and I keep going along with him because I'm like, yeah, in my head I'm still 20.
Yeah, but no, like I don't know if you experienced this too, but when I was like 13, like, and in high school, people had basically like everybody hated gay people. Like there was such like a lack of tolerance for gay people. Everyone was calling everybody a slut. Everybody was pressuring people to get into relationships, have sex. Like there was this weird like bless you. Like this weird like ideal of like people growing up, and if you were falling behind on that, you were like weird. Like there was this really lovely group of girls in my year that were just themselves, and they didn't force themselves to grow up or anything, and they were like bullied to hell. They were like so looked down upon, and they were absolute angels, and they were so
primary school or secondary school?
Secondary school. So when I was like 13, I like, in where I was, we didn't do like middle school. It was literally just like, yeah, it was like primary school, high school. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah, so it was like 13, 14, and everybody was suddenly like pressured to grow up. Like people were starting to kind of like experience, you know, what you do. And I remember being like, after my nan died, kind of starting to change little things about myself. Like I dyed my hair for the first time when I was 14, and I only dyed it like a brighter red, which obviously isn't that different from my natural hair color. and I cut it really short, which is fine. Like, I think it's good to express yourself and you have to kind of like come into your own, but I think it became like an obsession. So like it started off very
altering your appearance.
Yeah, with my appearance. Yeah, it started off very healthy. It was very much like trying out some makeup, you know, doing some fun things, you know. And then I think when I started to date or like have boyfriends was when it started to like get a lot worse, because ever since I've been in relationships, I have been cheated on. Like, I have basically had more relationships that I have been cheated on than I have not been cheated on. And for a while I didn't think that really like affected me, but I do think it did. I think it really did affect me. And I also had some traumatic things happen when I was 15, which I've never spoken about on the internet, and I'm not like planning to, just because it's yeah. I had some traumatic stuff happen when I was 15, and I also was in an abusive relationship at like the age of 16. So not a good start to like dating, you know, and stuff like that. It was a really kind of rough ride when I first started my first experience with men. And I hadn't really picked up that I was bisexual at that time, you know, even though I definitely was. Like, I still don't think I like picked up that like I could date girls. It was almost kind of
just
like
subconsciously of like people being like, no, gay's wrong.
yeah, but at that age you're like, oh, maybe it is weird. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm weird. Like, you know, and I remember once like I was walking home with my friend and I was like, I think I like girls. She was like, me too. And we were like, okay, and then just kind of like never spoke about it again. We were just kind of like, yeah, I like girls, yeah, me too, and kind of like just kept and being like, okay, yeah. But yeah, I think like just through that, like I really started to lose myself through relationships, because I also just think that with the whole like media and slut shaming and everything like that, I was just like, I need to I honestly just think I subconsciously got into my head that my life's purpose was to find a man. And I honestly think that was like one of the things that screwed with me the most, because I felt like I was meant for so much, like not even meant, but like I just wanted so much more out of life than just a relationship. But it was like almost feel like it was like placed into my head that if I didn't have that, it was like I was worth nothing, you know, like I was like I wasn't valuable. But I think that
you're taught initially at school, especially from a young age, of like marriage, this and that, and what's a normal job and stuff like that, and what to aspire to. And I feel like, you know, when you were talking about like the magic of like just being you, and like those girls that were truly them at school, done and everything, I found that it was like that for me in primary school. Primary school was like the best years of my life.
Yeah.
Even though I was like obviously different, and obviously called gay, or one of the girls, or always with the girls, I just didn't care. Like I just went with it, and like in the end, like being you and truly being you, like they will die down and they will respect you for being you, no matter how much hate that they have in their heart, or like whatever stuff's going on with them, obviously, but like it does genuinely, what I found, that it does genuinely like die down. Like it does hurt, like it hurts for a long time, but it, like, so long as you just keep going at it, you get that respect almost from them, even though it sucks that you have to get through the bad to get through the good. So no, like I really do feel like, but like secondary school was the worst years of my life, for like up until like year 10, 11, 12, until like I could like fully like let go.
Yeah, I hated it. I hated it too. Like I really didn't like it. Like I had like a good few years after that, like when I came out of school and I was like 18, I think I was suddenly like I had like my first strike of self-awareness, and I was like, oh, like, you know, and honestly like it kind of sucked, because I people were very mean to everybody, and like what I would meet people and people would be like, oh my god, I thought you were going to be a bitch, like you're so nice, and I'd always be like, oh my god, like no, like this is what people think of me. And
were you allowed to wear like makeup at school?
We were allowed to wear like I don't think we were actually allowed to, but honestly, like, I feel like they gave up with us because we were such a bad year. Like, our year was such a year, like, we were so messy. Like, there was so many problems in our year, and so many people were expelled like that year. And we're talking about like a tiny like town high school, and so many people were expelled, and we had like such a it was so messy. Like, so many teachers quit, and like we had like no like guidance throughout anything. It was all very messy. But yeah, so yeah, I don't know. So like I did have like a good kind of year when I was 18, which is hilarious. It's like from the end of 17 till like 19, I was like feeling good, you know, like I was
Were
doing.
you actively like not practicing but like dabbling in witchcraft or some stuff like that at
Yeah,
that point?
so I'd been reading, but this, like, it's funny because I literally never mentioned it to anybody, because I did not, because I actually thought it was gonna freak anyone out, but because I was like, this is mine. Like, everything else is everyone else's, but this is mine. Do you know what I mean? Like, in a selfish way, I was just like, everybody gets to like feed off parts of your life, and it wasn't even like I was thinking this consciously, but it was like I just wanted to keep that like that as mine. So when I first started reading tarot cards was when I was like 14, and I just got like the Rider-Waite and like angel cards and stuff like that, and I was doing that, and then I kind of started to dabble in like light witchcraft. And I say like light witchcraft by like it was literally just kind of like miniature little spells, and or like I don't know, just they were very silly and very light-hearted, and it was almost kind of like a mysterious thing. Like, I really like the supernatural side of things, which is not actually what I'm into anymore. But I really loved, like, I am still into like supernatural things, but not in ghosts. I mean, you know, like I was really into like oh, like, you know, the dead stuff.
Mystical.
Mystical, yeah, exactly. That's exactly how it was. But then, like, when I was 17, I discovered Wicca, and I kind of started to read up about Wicca, and I was like, oh, this is so, like, this makes me feel so like peaceful and so like and so good. And then I think that's when I had like my first kind of wave of like, I can control my life, I can like make things better, and I can like actually live in the way I want to live. And I also wasn't dating anyone during that time, so I also think it was like a bit of a, I was, you know, recovering from a really bad spell of depression, and I had stopped like doing some really self-destructive things, and I just decided to be by myself for a little bit and like read up on Wicca. Like, I would just go to work, come home, and like, you know, it was like the same routine. It was very, very nice and very calm, up until I was like 19, and then like that wave of like self-awareness went again, and I was like back into chaos. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
So did you, after like secondary school, did you go to college, or did you just not go to college or uni?
Yeah, so I quit I quit college. I did fine art for a year at college, and I liked it, but I was in such a bad place, like in my mental health at that point. Like, I was in a really, really bad state, but I didn't really think I was. Like, it's so weird. I look back and I'm like, what was I doing? Like, I know you're young and you can't blame yourself for things like this because you're not even aware of like what you're doing or what's going on at that point. But I was in such a bad way. And I dropped out of fine art after a year, and then I went to do media makeup, funnily enough. So I was kind of, yeah, so because I was like, oh, maybe like makeup artistry is for me, and like that's kind of where I started to properly get into like makeup for a while, and started to like express myself with makeup, and stuff like that. And so I got into like that further, because for a while I was really crap at makeup, like everyone was, you know. It was always like drawing on your eyebrows like square, like, you know, like, and
Questionable choices.
yeah, questionable choices, and like foundation where the line is like, you know, like, you know, yeah. And so I dropped out of that after like 3 months though, because I was in a really, really bad state, and I had gotten out of a relationship that was really good, but I was too unhappy to be in it. And he's
Which
like
is
still
really, really, really good. Like segueing, that's really like, especially at that age, you're not being selfish. You're
no,
in it, and so you don't want to waste that person. So not that you're wasting it, but like you're not going to be present in it, like fully.
no.
So that's really good of you, and I'm really glad that you said that.
Yeah, and like we kind of, it was like a very like it wasn't a happy breakup because we both really liked each other, but it was kind of like I'm clearly too unhealthy to be in this relationship, and like I'm not in a good place. But that actually kickstarted me to like getting better. Like I kind of are we allowed to talk about triggering subjects in this? Is that like
Yeah. I
like
mean, I'll probably like put something.
yeah, I had really bad problems with self-harm, and I stopped self-harming after that. Like he kind of helped me get out of that, like in that sort of way. And he's still my friend because like we had like a really, for a 17-year-old, a very, very good relationship. And he kind of helped me get out of that. And then I also started to just like heal in a very strange way. Like I basically just worked. I had like a really nice cafe job. I just like work at the cafe, go home, like I'd read a little bit about Wicca sometimes, or I'd watch some games. I'd sleep until dinner, like every day. After a few hours of doing that, I'd wake up, eat dinner, and then chill for the evening, and then do the same thing. But it weirdly helped me heal, like because I think I was just spending time being like a human for a little bit instead of being in like a chaotic relationship or like a weird environment. It was just like work, do your thing. It was just like being a normal person and kind of letting myself like heal and kind of work out where I was going after that.
In terms of YouTube, did that come about soon after? Or were you already making videos?
Yeah, so I actually started making videos. I always forget about YouTube. It's always like because it like blends in to like
Yeah.
it blends into my life. Yeah, like so I started making YouTube videos when I was 17 and when I was still with that nice guy. And I made like my first few videos. They were very like low key and kind of cute, and they were just so cute. I look back at them and I was like, I was such a
Have
little.
you saved them and not deleted it?
Yeah, I haven't deleted. I've privatized them, but I haven't like deleted them because they are cute. They're just like me like looking at myself way too much in the viewfinder, like being like like doing my hair. I think my first ever video was a Kylie Jenner makeup tutorial, like which is hilarious considering like what is
Where you are now.
really funny because like I got a lot of criticism when I first started doing witchcraft on YouTube. Fair enough as well because I knew like the terms for things. I had no idea about any of them. Like they were really like I literally had like read a few books. Well, not a few books. I read quite a lot of books and practiced kind of from them, and kind of did witchcraft to like a small degree and just
Because those thousands of people are going to look at you like she can't even like define the word or she's pronouncing it wrong.
yeah, and I do understand it. Like I actually a lot of the comments are really helpful. Like a lot of people are
Yeah.
like, do you know, like it's done like this, and I was like, I didn't really like. I don't know. I think it really helped me look into like it at a whole new level because I would already kind of like practicing and doing it to a private like level. But then I was like, okay, if we're going public with this, you need to get like you can't be like hurting anyone within the community. I can't be like mispronouncing things or making people or belittling other people's
Yeah.
parts of their journeys. I also like the term white witch is like I just think it's weird. Like I don't see anyone using it anymore because it used to mean like good witch. And I'm like that's very it's very weird. Do you know what I mean? Like it's like a
Yeah.
very like I just
There's a process and a way of doing things, but if it doesn't work with you or even resonate with you, your way is just as good. It might not be the correct way, but
yeah,
it's just as good if you're getting something beneficial from it. And
yeah.
you'll see, yeah. So like I agree with what you're saying, but there's like grey areas with that.
No, there
Um,
definitely is. There definitely is, and this is the thing is like I I think like I took that role on of like trying to be the perfect
yeah.
Wiccan and stuff like that, and now I understand more. It's such like it basically what I needed to take from that was to respect people you know, and what they do. But then I also think like a lot of the hatred, or not the hatred, or like a lot of the misjudgment that I received was from people that believed that it was one way. And to me, now nothing is one way. Like, I don't think you just have to be like a perfect Wiccan, or I don't even think you have to declare yourself as something to take like something from it and be like inspired by it or take on your life and things like that. So yeah, no, I definitely agree with you on that. Like, yeah, I definitely agree with you on that.
Basically, to social media, and like, when did it become unhealthy? And I know that's a big part of your like realization, like sometime last year, of like with the makeup, with the fashion, with when was that, like when were you fully like immersed in it?
So I felt like I said, there was a good few years when, like, you know, like when I was doing the whole like lovely Instagram witchcraft thing, that was good. Like, I actually felt really good.
As in like the more like stylized things of like levitating teacups.
Yeah, like I love doing that. That was really fun. And sometimes I'm always like, oh, that was so fun. That was such like a fun time of my life, because I was pretty happy.
You know what? Before I forget to say this, and because we're time conscious, like I really do think, like, maybe as a hobby, but like get into photography, like as in like proper photography, which you already do, but like, what is proper? But like as in like, because you have an eye for things, and that's it's really like good, and your attention to detail is quite like chef's kiss.
Oh, thank you, lovely. No, I really enjoyed that time of my life because it was so fun, just like going out and finding spots and just like just making like almost like bringing, like, all of it was just fun to me. Like, obviously I knew there was a massive difference between Wicca,
Fantasy.
what actually it was, and then like the fantasy sort of thing. Like, I knew that, and a lot of people have not liked that. Like, a lot of people were like, you should be
promoting that as like the actual thing.
Yeah. And I understand that too, but it was literally just like fun for me. Like, it was like really like I just
outlet is art.
Yeah, and I also got to spend time with nature. Like, I got to go and be like out with nature while doing my job, and so that was like a really nice time to do like doing that. But I really enjoyed it. But then I don't know. It kind of, I think I lost myself when I started to adjust myself for everybody's like opinions. So, like you just said, you know, when we were talking about how you said, oh, you know, but everyone takes something from you. You don't necessarily have to like be a perfect conforming Wiccan to, you know, do that. But in my head, I had to be. So I hope I didn't come across as like, I feel like people should do that, because I don't believe that people have to like conform to like one type of Wicca or something.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
From me as like a spectator and watching you grow and evolve, just even like, well, not knowing the full story because you're just showing me and showing the world basically bits and pieces, but like as a spectator, it's interesting to see that like myself, like using these like aesthetics things and this and that to get to where you need to and truly need to be. So like watching you evolve and go through different phases and like aesthetics and stuff, and like getting lighter with your appearance and lighter with your makeup, like towards the end, like you wore basically really quite light makeup. And I remember in like one makeup tutorial that you actually said that you loathed your face without eyelashes on. And that actually really like struck me, because I have a fairly good relationship with makeup, and I really love my face without it. Personally, I have told you things about like my like 5 o'clock shadow and stuff like that, and that's like I can't yet commit to what like wearing virtually no makeup because of like gender dysphoria and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But
it's like a journey.
I could really relate with like in a less version, but like really relate with when you were like hated your face without it, and I was like, well, damn, like it's yeah.
It did really become like that for me. And also when I was like, I was in a really like a bad, like a kind of tricky, some really tricky scenarios when I was like 20, 21 too, and it was getting worse. Like when I was first doing all this like witchy stuff, it was very like fun. It was very like I was just kind of like expressing myself, and I still didn't like my face, and I didn't have that good relationship with my body or my face or anything. But it was a lot less. It was a lot like more like I didn't even think about it. I was just like, you know, I almost like did like costume makeup. You know, I was like drawing all over my face, and like that obviously wasn't for people to be like, damn, she's hot, or like she's valuable. It was just because I was like, this is fun, like this express myself with this, you know. But it became such an obsession to me, to the point of where by the age of like, okay, so even like, you know, 22, I had such a bad relationship with my face that if I just hated the way that I looked, firstly, but more important, like more worse anyway, I had no idea who I was anymore, because I just lost myself to social media, to beauty standards, to the judgment of other people, to male validation, to like I just lost myself completely. I just loved getting drunk, because it would just take me away from whatever I was dealing with at that point. And yeah, so I I used to just get drunk all the time, and then when I stopped, I was suddenly faced with myself, and I was like, shit. Like I was like, what is going on here, and like why is this? I don't know, like I just like started to look at myself and started to be very aware of things. Like slowly it would like creep in, and I'd suddenly be like, I'm anxious all the time. Like I'm literally anxious all the time. Like, and I never actually thought of myself as an anxious person, but then I started to reflect on my mental breakdown, and I was like, that was a severe anxiety attack. Like that whole thing was like me spiraling into like an anxiety attack, and I never actually realized that I was anxious. And obviously I was going to therapy at this point too. I've been in therapy for like almost 3 years now, like, or I don't know, probably through about 3 years. But yeah, and I was slowly kind of having those realizations, and I then had some like, basically I started to realize that I'd had a traumatic event happen to me. Like I had like a few, but I kind of have processed them, and I've spoken to people about them, but there was a big one that I didn't process, and it kept coming up in my brain, and I was like, put it back away, just, you know, get rid of that, and kind of like, you know, I'd like throw it to the side, and then it would come back up when I was like in the shower or sleeping at night. Do you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like I'd be like laying down, and I'd be like, oh my god, like I just remember, you know, like little things would kind of come back to me, and I'd get really really low about it. You're screwed forever. This is like my thought process. I was literally like, you have ruined everything. I had no idea who I was. Like if someone had asked me, who are you? Like, you know, that kind of, you know, question of just like, who are you? Not like your identity or your brand or whatever, but like, who are you as a person? Like, do you know yourself? I was just like, no idea. Like, absolutely no idea. I knew what I was supposed to like. I knew what I thought I should like, but I didn't actually know what I liked, you know? It's beautiful. Like everybody heals and expresses their healing from their, you know, trauma or anything like that in their own way.
Yeah.
And it's absolutely, that's like one of the most beautiful things about healing, is how like some people feel like they've never been able to express themselves in that way, so then they do.
Yeah.
But it's that basically everything that's like healthy is completely fine as long as you have boundaries with it, and it doesn't put like a clasp on you, so you know you can still move around if you need to. So it was kind of like that for me, and I basically just stopped, and I was just like, I'm gonna take a whole month off, because I just kind of like started to feel like I needed to create a new brand for myself. And I was like, instead of trying to create a brand for myself, how about I actually get to know myself, and actually just and like actually like get
that is so beautiful.
like I was like, how about I actually work out what the fuck I like?
I think everyone should, like, even if they're very confident, they should just challenge their own set of beliefs.
Always. My whole life, I'm happy to learn and take on new ideas and new opinions and anything beautiful. Like I never want to be somebody that goes, I'm going to stop learning now, because I just think like, why would you? There's so much amazing things to discover. Like how could you stop that. This existence, and I see this happiness coming back again. And I think I'd also gotten so like comfortable with being sad. Like I'd gotten so like, this is just life for me, that I started to like listen to like how I started off doing this was I firstly just like was like, I'm not going to wear any makeup for a month. I'm just going to like just chill out and just like, you know, vibe with myself for a month basically. And I started off just meditating every day, which was very, very challenging at the start. For a lot of people, it is as well.
Yes.
Walking every day in the morning, which helped me with my meditation weirdly, because I feel like it cleared my head a little bit.
That can be a form of meditation for people as well. So
yes, exactly. And it is like, so it's basically like a double meditation, you know, like it was like, you know, that sort of thing. Yeah, exactly. And
especially with the body confidence, I know that that has been like a struggle of like being comfortable at whatever weight, and then you even made like a losing weight video and stuff like that.
yeah.
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 And how did you have the love with that and find love of like truly accepting you as you are? And one thing, I know I keep like jargon.
That's fine.
one thing one thing is that I loved when you said because I really do believe it to be true. That's how I like mentally like equipped myself with my body and stuff like that, especially in its current state, which is like another story for another time. But being comfortable with yourself naked and walking around, because I like squishing my body. I'm just like, hello, this is me.
Hello. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so I deleted that losing weight video. I don't know if you noticed, but I deleted it because
I did notice that a lot of videos have been private, whatever.
Yeah, and that was just like a lot of them. Like there's so many different reasons why, like for different things, that I decided to privatize things. But specifically for like the weight thing, back when I was losing weight and like going through all of that, I was also going through my mental breakdown. I always forget that it's like happening at the same time, but like I had a very negative image of myself, and I was in a bad scenario, and I had no coping mechanisms, and I was dealing with like trauma that hadn't been acknowledged. Like there was so much shit going on, but I had a very negative. I've for as long as I can remember had a very negative image of my body and women's bodies, and like what it is to be a woman as like a purely personal choice. All the time for like the last year of wearing makeup, I thought I don't want to wear makeup. Every time I put it on, I'd be like miserable doing it. And obviously when you're doing that, it's like, why the fuck are you doing it then?
Yes.
You know, like
you are actually like, you can say, oh my gosh, it's like a spiritual thing and I enjoy like listening to music, but you're wasting so much fucking time just doing that.
Yeah,
like
well,
the amount,
of it, like that's a perfectly acceptable way to spend your time. But for me, I was doing it and I hated it, and I really like, also like I would straighten my hair because I had this idea that curly hair was like bad. Like, you know, when I was younger, like curly hair was never fashionable. And I think I just grew up believing like straight hair, like skinny, like, you know, like living up to all these stupid beauty ideals that like ridiculous, because like but I don't like that on myself anymore. Like I feel like if I did that again, it would feel like I don't know, I just don't think it would feel right for me personally. But I would like be open to like, if I was going somewhere or doing something, I thought about it and been like, maybe I'll wear some like eyeshadow or like, you know, or some blusher or something like that. And it would just be like that's my kind of way of doing that. But I'd never go back to wearing like a lot of makeup just because I didn't enjoy it. And maybe I'll try it again one day, but I don't think
because I'm a firm believer of like knowing what you like and sticking with it and just being authentic, which you are. But I would never say never, because I never know where my life will like take me.
Also, and like change is beautiful, isn't
it?
You know, it's like
progression.
Yeah, natural progression and change. And like, it's like, just because like you like something now doesn't mean you're gonna like it in like 5 minutes, let alone like 5 years. And like, life is just a collection of like monumental like just consciousness, and that's all it is. So I'm like, well, we might as well just like exist and be happy and not worry about what other people are doing, but
not basically have a facade like built up.
Yeah, just like basically do what like heals your soul, what feels good to yourself, and it doesn't have to be one way, it doesn't have to be one thing. Like you can so easily fall into like having to be like a certain brand or certain somebody, like you just said, but we are humans that like live and breathe like everything, you know, like we are here to experience and like, you know, and just enjoying food. And I was like, I don't like, there's nothing wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with weighing more than anything. Like even it just bothers me. It just bothers me because I'm like, how people come to
Why the
value
fuck did I have this mindset in the first place?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, why?
Why
in terms of food, veganism, why?
So I have like been a vegetarian since I was like 18, and I've been a vegan. Like I was on and off as a vegan for like a year, and then I started to go like fully vegan after that. And basically, like I just it's for every reason. Just basically, I believe that there is necessary pain and suffering that just happens. Like life and kind of, and you have to accept that there is pain and suffering. There's nothing you can do. You can't save the world. Like there's always going to be pain and suffering, and there is also unnecessary pain and suffering, stuff that you can help prevent, and stuff that you can help like I don't know, just like stuff that you can choose to not contribute to. It's beautiful. Like it really is beautiful. I just there's like a lot of things that I just wish like I didn't partake in in society. And but you know, I am still like living in the modern world, and I still have to do things and earn money and whatever.
And
but
it
like,
goes to show that it is possible to rid yourself of things. It might be hard, it might not be as like quick, but it is possible if you put in the work.
It definitely takes time. Like my life like goal is to like live in a commune and like you know like have like a nice community and like grow my own food and like live in the middle of nowhere. That'd be like the beautiful goal. But yeah,
I want to thank you incredibly so much for doing this with me. If there's anything you want to plug, which I'm pretty sure anyone already knows that watches you, where can they find you?
They can find me at Harmony Beatrix on Instagram, or you can read my book, which is just called Wicca, Modern Guide to Witchcraft and Magic, or my tarot deck, which is the Harmony Tarot, Growth and Healing Tarot, or you can just find me on YouTube, which is just Harmony Nice. So yeah, find me there.
Thank you guys so much for watching episode 3 with extra special guest Harmony Nice, and stay tuned for the next episode.
Bye.
Bye.